My brothers and sisters in Christ, today's gospel passage contains one of the so-called hard sayings of Jesus. They're those passages in the Gospels that give us pause because they don't comfortably fit into the way we think of the Lord, or in a sense are just very hard to digest or swallow. In this case, it's a hard saying of Jesus because it can be shocking to hear in a sense that Jesus doesn't seem to be being very nice to this woman. After he's said so much to the people, he seems to, is he just having a bad day in his treatment of this Syrophoenician woman? And so passages like this require us to go a little bit deeper. And this passage is very rich, but only if we see what's truly going on here. So for context, the past few days in the gospel, we've been hearing this talk about the law, the obedience, the ritual purity laws. The Pharisees are obsessed with the fact that Jesus and his disciples don't seem to carry out all of the ritual purity laws. And Jesus, in yesterday's gospel, told his disciples, in a sense, he switched the context. Nothing from outside defiles, it's what comes from inside. In a sense, it's not what type of food you eat that defiles you, or what you touch, or your contact with this. All these things that the Jews thought made you ritually unclean. He says, no. What makes you unclean is the sin that comes out of you. In a sense, the sinner is the one who is unclean, not the one who's eaten the wrong type of food, or had contact with a corpse, or this or that. It's what comes out of the heart. And in that passage it says, and by doing so he thus declared all foods clean. So this was to his disciples a huge eye-opener. In a sense, it seems like you're overturning the ritual purity laws. In fact, he's fulfilling them, the spirit of the law behind them, which is what is coming out of the human heart. But when we extend this into this passage we hear today, so he leaves this episode, and now he goes into Gentile territory and encounters this Syrophoenician woman. So she is a Gentile. And she finds out, he's trying to keep a low profile, and of course this woman finds out about it and comes and asks him for his help, for his healing. So when he says, no, it is not proper that the food of the children be given to the dogs, this hard saying has more going on to it than it appears at first value. Because Jesus reiterates at every turn that he has come to the children of Israel first. They're the children of the promise, so to speak. So he has come to the Jewish people as the fulfillment of the covenant. And then in turn, as we see play out in the New Testament, he tells his disciples that the good news is to go to the ends of the earth. And the Gentiles are delighted. We see this in the Acts of the Apostles in the early church, that at first it's a movement within the Jewish community, but then in fact it turns, especially in the missionary journeys of Paul, it turns into the good news to the Gentiles. It's opened up to the nations. But Jesus always reiterates he comes first because the promise has to be fulfilled. And then ultimately, when many of the children of Israel reject him, then his good news goes to the nations. But for now, he comes to the Jews first. And so in his response, when he speaks of the food thrown to the dogs, he's speaking of the bread that he spoke of in the last chapter. There'd been the multiplication of loaves and fishes, and now he's speaking of that which is to be given. It's to be given to the Jewish people first. But also, at this point in time, because of ritual purity laws, Jews and Gentiles couldn't even eat together. The Jewish purity law would set them apart from Gentiles. So even talking about this image of bread at the table and to the dogs, he's speaking of this formal arrangement. It hasn't been bridged yet. And only in his passion, death, and resurrection will that be bridged. Will the good news go out to the ends of the earth to the Gentiles? But for now, when he says this seemingly harsh rebuttal, the woman shows great faith in turning his image back and saying, but even the dogs can eat the scraps from the children under the table. In a sense, she accepts his condemnation in a sense that she's a second-class citizen as a Gentile and receiving the promise. But she shows great faith and humility in doing it. You can imagine that Jesus is delighted, actually, to hear this. And therefore he says, "Go, your daughter is healed, the demon is gone." What great faith, even though she's a Gentile, what great faith she has in recognizing the power of God. And so, Jesus, when he encounters Gentiles on his journey with this, he always makes clear that his first work before his passion is to the Jewish people. And yet, so often there are Gentiles who appear that have such overpowering faith that the generosity of God cannot help but address their needs in the here and now. He doesn't say, "Wait until after I die, then you can receive my blessings and grace." But he says, "You have this, what you have said, because of it you can go, your daughter is healed." The generosity of God knows no bounds, and it reminds us of the importance of our faith and prayer, not just to achieve an outcome, but our trust that is fomented in God when we place our trust of our prayer in him. So on this day in which we celebrate Our Lady of Lourdes, we can think of all those pilgrims who have gone to Lourdes seeking healing in the waters at Lourdes. And there have been many miraculous healings there, but not everyone who goes is healed in their body. And yet all are touched because there is an encounter with profound faith in the very prayer, the seeking, the entrusting to God the need. And this, my brothers and sisters, is more powerful than any bodily, mental affliction of any kind. This is truly the healing of soul and relationship with God. And so this day we commend the Syrophoenician woman, and we're grateful to Our Lady for appearing at Lourdes to remind us of the generous healing power of God. May we be so committed in our prayer that our faith may save us as well. May God bless you all.